We're here.
Hello!
Hello!
Welcome, Monday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and I'm excited.
You are, I know. You know what do you remember that video that was sort of based on the Princess Diaries where all those girls were answering the cat phone? You won't know what I'm talking about, but people, I never saw the Princess Diaries, but there was this spoof of it where all these women kept picking up cats. They're holding them like they're talking to phone and going, the queen is coming. The queen is coming. And that's what I kept thinking of today with Nina coming on. Like, I kept thinking, the queen is coming.
And even though I haven't had a good day, it's like, well, Nina will be here and everything will be fine. And so that's
all will be well.
All will be well in the world. And that's, so Jen doesn't like my attempt at a scruffy.
No.
What do you guys think? I mean, I'm
experimenting with you.
I'm just not capable. Hey, listen, this is one of those things that you should be thankful that you don't have. I mean, I remember my friend.
Are we really going to go off on a hair tangent?
No. Okay. I was, thinking of one of the guys I was in my crew, if you will, when I was in high school. Lino, he had to shave every day.
Okay. Here's the thing. I actually do like facial hair on men, but for me, it's per person specific. Some people look really good with facial hair. Some people don't. Well, it looks great with facial hair. I even like Jason, like he has Jason wears a really nice goatee. I actually met him with a full beard. I actually like facial hair. I have no problem with facial hair. You, my friend, do not grow enough facial hair for it to be worthy of facial hair. And that's just your reality. And you should accept that and just move on. And it's not your thing. You look like, to me, it's hobo-ish.
So as a lot of you guys know, this is not, sort of the bridge between 21 and 22. It's been kind of difficult, watching, a lot of people have been passing away. Of course, obviously, we saw what happened last night with Bob Saget passing away unexpectedly. He was actually going to be right here in the area at Dania Point.
Did they have a cause of death on that?
Haven't said anything yet.
I have a feeling he wasn't well. Maybe
he wasn't. I mean, you never know. But the last social media post he made was about how excited he was to get back out on the road again. They don't suspect foul play. You never know. And obviously Betty White passed away.
Okay, that was
legend. But the one that really hit close to home, especially for you, Jen,
for me,
is obviously Sir Sidney Poitier.
So. I love him. I love him. I've loved him for as far back as I can remember. And anyone who knows me, my all-time favorite movie ever is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which is, I know you like him in Heat of the Night.
That was a great
Heat of the Night. I know.
In what I like to call the slap heard around the world, because that's what it was.
To me, and this is just me, and I think of him as the most perfect combination of elegance and badassery. He, to me, it's like James Bond minus the fake stuff, like that, just complete elegant, but yet total manly. That is something to me that he just oozed that to me. And if you haven't seen Shoot to Kill, highly recommend. Great movie. That was the Tom Berenger, and they're in like the wilderness, and Sidney Poitier has a run-in with the bear, and he's trying to scare the bear. He was older in that. But
the one that I really liked was, do you remember The Jackal? Did you ever see that? That was good.
He was just amazing. He was also great in
Richard Gere trying to talk like he's with the what's it called?
I don't know.
Northern Ireland.
He was in Sneakers, which was also amazing.
I only saw part of it. That had everybody. That movie really
had. And
Robert
really
Redford.
A lot of Robert. That for me was
River
a whole lot of
Phoenix,
man candy. I love that movie.
Aykroyd. Yeah.
David Strathairn was in. There's a lot of good. There's a whole lot of man candy in that. But Sidney Poitier, to me, was just, forget the fact that he was the first Black actor to win a Best Actor Oscar, which I know people like those kinds of things. He was just his whole own, just class, just total. He was 94 and he was old, and that's what happens. None of us is getting out of here alive. So it's not like some horrid tragedy or anything, but it definitely brought tears to my eyes because definitely loved him. So rest in power, Sidney.
I just got that text.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a power trio.
Big things happening.
Big things happening in the political world. People coming together to form an alliance.
It's all falling into place.
So anyway, we can move on. I digress.
I think it's, without question, he certainly was a legend. And he he really had an impact.
Just class. And also an integrity and a work ethic that just unparalleled. Just loved him. Passion. He was all the passion. Loved him. Anyway.
And so that's why, you know, everybody's been saying today, and it's true, we are living in a very unique time where a lot of people are passing away, and maybe it's just sort of that generational thing that's happening.
Well, I mean, he was old. Betty White was old. Yeah. Like none of these things, like, yes, it is sad that Betty White didn't make it to 100 for people who pay attention to those kinds of milestones. She was amazing. Love Betty White. And so, you know, she had a very good, full, long life. Like, that's definitely worth celebrating.
And everybody was upset she just missed making it.
And okay, people care about those things. I mean, whatever. Yeah, but for me, when old people die that have had a long life, then that's not a bad thing, you know? So
no, it means it's a life that's been lived well.
Yes.
That's really the idea. And as you said, it's not the years in life, but the life in years.
Well, for me, it's quality, not quantity. And those are people that had both. So it's very.
No, Mario.
Oh God, Mario, why? Mario, you sound like an animal when you do it. Mario, why do you encourage this?
The Republicans and Democrats are going to get together in California, and we're going to do great work. We're going to work on the environment.
Is that
it's very important.
Okay, and let me do a shout out because I didn't want to gloss over the Bob Saget thing, but people know him from Full House. If you have not heard his stand-up or seen some of his stand-up, he is one of the filthiest, raunchiest, like you would never know. And he was somebody who was very big in the comedy world and very influential to a lot of people in stand-up, interestingly. And
he brought along a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I am appreciative and respectful of that. So, and bad things happen in threes. So that was it. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so we're okay now?
Although I kind of feel like, again, that when people in their 90s die, it's not a bad thing. But death happens in threes, let's say.
That's true, but Bob Saget was only 65.
I understand that. That one's not as, you know.
And that appears
that one's not as celebratory.
And that appears to be really hurting a lot of people. Like they really, a lot of people in the entertainment industry, if somebody really made an impact and they felt like this is kind of the thing that's always interesting. You know, a lot of people think that a lot of the actors and the actresses are all divas and this and that. But the truth is, Hollywood is run by a very select group of executive producers, power brokers, people like that. And so a lot of times people are acting in a way that is kind of kowtowing to the interests of those people at the top. And when you hear the stories like about somebody like Bob Saget, and you hear how he was so kind and accommodating to even, you know, people who would be considered on like the low rung, if you will, of the industry, and how he never saw himself as above anybody else and was always encouraging. That's, you know, that's very self-assuring. It really means a lot.
And I don't know if people know this, but his sister died from scleroderma.
We'll see, Mario. We'll see.
I don't know if you know that. His sister died from a disease called scleroderma, which is incredibly painful and an incredibly horrible way to die. It's also genetic. And that's why when you said, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he had, not that he has scleroderma, but no. I know that was, you know, that is a genetic thing, and it's horrible. So, and his sister he was very close with her. I don't know if anybody, I'm just a plethora of like kind of useless information.
Well, the question becomes, obviously, as a lot of people will wonder, is, you know, what did he die from? But the truth of the matter is, like you said, no one is getting out of here alive.
And what I'm saying is that maybe he had, like, I'm not assuming anything nefarious. Yeah. I'm not assuming anything having to do with addiction. Who knows? But I'm just saying there were health issues like that. I know in his family. So I don't. Yeah. You know.
So again, it really is just a firm reminder that John, where have you been, John? Yes, bringing it. Yeah. Mr. Serial Killer Robert Durst has died too. So I guess we should.
Wait, which one was that? BTK?
No, he's the one who was he was part of the Durst development family in New York. They owned One World Trade Center. He inherited all the money and stuff. And this guy, like, he's killed, I guess, like at least four people. So it was amazing when you saw sort of the resume of his and how many people he had gotten. He apparently was able to get off from murdering like a housekeeper, claiming that he shot her in self-defense. They wrestled for the gun.
You're a big housekeeper.
Different rules
Mario,
for
you're right. I did give
people.
the shout out on Festivus, so you could be a Patreon for that. You don't need to wait for him to get a Schwarzenegger mask. I'm just saying. Yep.
Let me tell you why I really like
Please
this
stop
Nina Turner.
encouraging
She's a
this.
great. No, she's a great. She's a great.
Yet I highly doubt that Arnold would like Nina Turner.
No, I love Nina Turner.
I'm not feeling it.
Why don't you? What do you have against me, Jen? No, you got to stop. You got to
I
stop
don't have
assuming.
hate. No, I don't have anything against Arnold, but he's definitely not a progressive.
I
don't hate Arnold, and I don't think he's like horrible.
No,
I
but
mean, I think he's on a personal level, he's a pig, but like politically, I don't have like an issue with
he's progressive on the environment, which is that's a big deal.
Okay.
So
woo woo.
So woo woo.
Okay, so now Nina popped up, so now I'm having that total thing. The queen is coming. The queen is coming. Like the cat. I don't know. Jason never saw this either. They're people with cats, and they pick them up like their phones, and then they go, oh, okay, and they put it down. The queen is coming, and it's something to do with the Princess Diaries. I don't know. It's very funny.
She's a former state senator from the state of Ohio, former candidate in Ohio's. Oh crap! I'm going to get this wrong. Was it the 13th district?
No, it's like the 10th or the 11th.
No,
it's earlier than 13.
It's 12.
It's not. No, now you're just trying to compromise.
All I know is that we were in Cleveland and we should have been there for a victory. And Lord knows what's going to happen this year. You know her from the Bernie Sanders campaign. You love her. She's Nina Turner. Welcome back to Generation Change.
Thank you.
Are you laughing at me right off the bat?
You two are cracking me up. It's the 11th congressional.
You actually did get it right.
Thank you.
Damn.
Thank you.
There it is. Ohio 11. Did you have a good Christmas and New Year's? Let's start there. Let's start with something positive.
Oh, thank you. I did. You know, being around my family, I'm very low key around that time of the year. I'm sure you have people who are, who view you guys on a regular basis who could probably relate to what I'm about to say. It's kind of bittersweet. Christmas is because it's also a time where people struggle a lot. So while it's festive and the lights and you get to be with loved ones and you can justify eating all the sweet, overeating, it's also a sad time for so many people. And I watched my mother be very depressed. My mother is dead. You both know that. She died many years ago now. Sometimes it seems like yesterday, but she died when she was 42 years young. And just my childhood memories of my mother being depressed because she was trying to figure out how she was going to buy Christmas gifts for 7 kids. So the commercialization of Christmas really gets to me in a negative way because of my experience with my mom. But on the other side of that, having my son and I'm a new grandmother, as you two know, I'm Yaya. I'm a fabulous baby. Fabulous.
You're Yaya?
Yeah, Yaya. That's what they call me. I'm a grandma. But yeah, Yaya. And yeah, so that part of it and just, the lights and the reminiscing about the cartoons, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Santa Claus Coming to Town, which I wish they would do a remix with a black Santa. Let me just put that out there. But anyway, John, that was a long way for me to say it was good, but bittersweet. And then I also try to think about other people who are suffering in that moment too. It's just not festive for everybody. Yeah. But I love the spirit of it. Let me just make a long story less long.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I'm a Scrooge. Well, we did a Festivus. We did a Festivus live stream, and we had everybody on, and we had the airing of grievances, which is a very important part of Festivus. And some people, not to mention names, Crystal Ball, came with lists. She had a list, was ready to air her grievances. And so that was very cathartic. But normally growing up as a Jew during Christmas, we would call it Jew-to-dos. What's a Jew-to-do? And there would be these Jew-to-do parties. It was sort of pathetic. We're pathetic.
Well, I got to spend it with my best friend, Jocelyn, who I always spend Christmas with. And it was obviously a lot more low key than normal because of COVID, but it was still great. It is the get together of family and friends. That is really what it's supposed to be about. And absolutely. I think a lot of people do feel pressure to spend a lot of money when just the gesture itself, whatever you can provide, it really goes a long way. And I think we are trying to evolve more as a culture in that sense, because we like to spend money on things that we can't afford and don't need. And I think we need to really, start thinking about, what does 22, look like for us. And right now, obviously things are kind of rough, and obviously, if we want to touch upon a positive subject, certainly in your backyard, looks like the labor movement, which we obviously believe is the future. It looks like there's going to be a new wave of attempted unionization with, I believe, Starbucks in Cleveland. So that's obviously, we touched on the fact that what happened in Buffalo was so significant because it can inspire so many more to say, you know what, we should have our rights in terms of time off, in terms of our wages, in terms of our health care. I think that this is really our path is going to be through the progressive movement's path is through labor. Would you agree?
That's right. Yeah, no, I absolutely do. And they were all inspiring. And I'm so glad you brought that up. So from, John Deere to, there were nurses striking. There were people from really all manner of backgrounds engaging in strikes and standing up, sometimes just for increasing their wages and their benefits and work conditions. And other times it was like a two-tier thing where it was all of the things that I just named, but it was also making sure that the workers that came behind those workers did not have a different pay scale, that they were able to get the same types of benefits and everything, which just shows that the sisterhood, the brotherhood, the family friendhood of being in a labor union, that is exactly what it is about, standing up for the next person to come behind you, not just for you in the moment. So whether it was the Kellogg workers, John Deere, Starbucks, and the National Labor Relations Board said that the
Bessemer
workers, in Bessemer, Alabama, which you both know I was down there. A lot of progressives went down there. It wasn't just me, but I was so happy to go down there standing side by side. I also used my social platform to lift the other workers around this great country who were striking to stand up for workers' rights. So yes, you are absolutely right. And that brings us all together because now this is a class thing. Class thing. We are having class solidarity. And another lesson that I believe that we can learn from what happened with the unions in 2021 is that we know that in these places, everybody was not politically aligned, right? There were some conservatives, some moderates, some progressives, some people who don't know what the hell they are politically. But you know what? They came together to fight a common enemy for a common cause. And so my question or my recommendation to the progressive movement, to the liberation movement itself, is how do we take from what our brothers and sisters and family and friends in labor just showed us so profoundly and deeply in 2021 and overlay that in our fight for liberation and justice in the progressive movement?
So I personally am opposed to the whole concept of politicians being saviors and idolizing people and thinking that any one person is the solution to anything. But that being said, we need you. So no, I'm serious. And so what's going on with you right now? Like where are you right now? Because we're going to have to push on that or people are going to be angry.
Yeah, I love how you just did that. I'm making some considerations now. I do really appreciate what you both did for me and others that watch the show, who are subscribers and just watch the activist work that you both do as you are using this platform to speak a type of truth that speaks to the heart and to the mind and to the soul of it. And yet I am in serious considerations right now. What is my best and highest use? What is it, Lord? That over the holiday, you asked me what else I did over the holiday. It was that. It was what is my best and highest use? Should I go for this again?
Well, our comment section would say yes, but
they just want you to be there no matter what. What would you say are the, obviously, like you said, over the holidays, it's really a time for reflection. What would you say were the biggest lessons you learned from the congressional race? The positives, obviously the negatives, and if ultimately you do decide to run again, more or less what you would see as being the areas that you need to improve upon if you're ultimately able to win next time.
Yeah. Ultimately, and we could go on and on about this, so I'll make it not, I'll make it short. Ultimately, it is that the corporatist Dems, the status quo folks, will do anything to try to defeat a progressive, even up into doing something to their own mama. I really do believe that. I am not trying to be funny or when I say that. I honestly believe that they fight harder against progressives than they fight against Republicans. And that is the truth. Look at what they did to India Walton in Buffalo, New York. She won her primary. I mean, her story was a lot different from mine in that she actually won her primary and did not compete against a Republican in the general, competed against another Democrat. Can you imagine if a progressive had done that to a status quo Democrat that won the primary? I mean, they would still be talking about us to this very minute. They would never let us live that down. And so that is a short way for me to say one of the biggest lessons that I learned, and I want the progressive movement to understand this, is that we have got to get more disciplined, and we have to stand together. And we have to know that there are no limits to which, because the ideas that we are fighting for are very humanitarian. And sometimes we get caught up in the fact that we want Medicare for all, and we want to drive down the cost of pharmaceutical drugs, and we believe that student debt should be canceled, and people should have paid family leave, et cetera, fill in your blank. Sometimes we let those high-minded ideas cloud us to the enemy that is in front of us. And the status quo will do something to their own mama, I believe, if it has to do with trying to defeat not just progressive individuals that run like myself and like an India, like a Senator Sanders, you name it. But what they are trying to do is to crush the spirit of our movement. And we cannot allow that.
Yeah, I think that, and that is one of, to me, the key things about labor, because you can go to a union hall and their political affiliation is irrelevant in that
That's
moment.
Right.
They're workers. And ultimately, that's what we need to be focused on, because the economic stuff, the justice issues are so much more important than the nonsense that they're trying to distract us with. And yes. I feel like it's incumbent upon us to keep reminding people not to be distracted by this ridiculous partisan theater, but to understand that there are issues that we all need to just stand firm on. And I just think that labor is that thing, is that coalition.
That's what they showed us last year. That was the example I was using, just what you hit on. That is it. They came together. Political affiliation didn't matter in that moment. It was we are union members, brothers and sisters, family and friends, fighting for better wages, work conditions, and benefits. And we got a common enemy and a common cause. And we're going to put all that other nonsense aside.
And I think that speaks very directly to one of the biggest issues that we saw, during your race, especially in the home stretch, which is the worst time to have, this dissension, if you will. You already have enough with the millions of dollars in the horrific ads that they were playing. The billboard, we remember that we saw when we were in Cleveland, calling you an anti-Semite and all that stuff. But then you have the other part of the equation, which is a sort of nihilistic movement with the online left that thinks that you can never do enough. I mean, I try to tell people you invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in a television ad in the Cleveland metro area saying that you support Medicare for all, and yet it wasn't enough that you did that. It's like, no, you have to come here and do this and that. And I'm just thinking there's too much of this. There's this huge problem on the left where there's this idea that I would rather be right than be effective. And that is something that I say this to anybody who's going to see this interview, and we know a lot of you will. So think about what that means in terms of what you want to accomplish going forward. If you have any aspirations of Medicare for all, a living wage, ending the wars, a Green New Deal, then you're going to have to swallow your pride in some instances and recognize that you're not going to get everything you want at once, but so long as the person in question is fighting on the side of workers and not corporate special interests, that is the winning play, period. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that, because that was something that really set us off.
No, I'm so sick of the purists. I'm so sick of them, the over woke damn purists. Like, if you don't agree with me, you say one thing and then I'm going to keep these are people that are bitter. They decide they don't like you, and then they use everything to work backwards from their conclusion, and they will find every little nitpicky thing. That's not on my team. Like, you're not working on our team. Well, you're not seeking progress.
Well, to be fair, they're not on our team right now. That doesn't mean they couldn't ultimately be.
That's true. You're displaying behavior that is not team-like.
Well, I'm saying amen to what both of you saying. I want to leap out of my seat right now. I think some people want to be professional, they just want to complain. They don't want the solution to come. Let me say that, because there's nothing wrong with complaining when things are wrong. But some people don't ever want the real solution to happen, because then what else are they going to do? They won't have anything else to do. And you're right, I said it till I was blue in the face. I want people to have universal health care, Medicare for all in these United States of America. No paying at the point of service. We are all in this together, period. That's it. I mean, what else you want me to say? And I've been fighting for this for a very long time and supported the candidate that actually got the 21st century version of the Progressive Movement Party started. What else y'all want a sister to do? You know, it's insane. So listen, we never going to always 100% agree with anybody. Even if we admire that person or agree with their politics, that's fine. If the prerequisite for a relationship is 100% agreement all the time, then we don't have much of a relationship. And I ain't got time for those kind of people. You do you, and I'm going to do me, which is to continue to use my voice and my platform and everything that I believe the Creator has given me to try to be and do some good in this world. Period.
Yeah. You know what? And people hate me for liking Vosh, but one of the things he makes a very big point about is that people have this tendency to conflate our political connections and our political coalition with our personal. Okay.
Come on.
I don't need to like everybody.
That's
I can
right.
actually work with people I don't like. I might even find them, but that doesn't mean that we're not trying to get to the same goal. Maybe I wouldn't hang out with them in real life. It really doesn't matter, people. And this is a problem I find on the left. They very much have to like people. It's about their feelings. And I don't see that as much on the right.
And I have no doubt that when you did your podcast with former Governor Kasich, that he probably, the people on the right weren't like, oh my God, how dare you talk to Nina Turner in public? I wonder what Nina Turner has to say. I'm curious as to what she stands for. And I'm wondering if there might be anything that I might agree with.
They didn't cancel him.
No. And
That's
so
right.
that is the whole, this is the growth period that I think we, as a movement, if we're going to have a sustainable movement, that we're all going to have to get to is.
Can I stay? I just want to stay there right for a minute because I ignored all those fools and I'm calling them that. Yeah. You know what? I served in the Ohio Senate, Senator Nina Turner, while Governor John Kasich was the governor. And guess what? We didn't agree 99% of the time. But when a young boy was shot on the playground, Tamir Rice in Cleveland, Ohio, and I called that governor. We talked to one another. He was like, Senator, what is happening there? I said, Governor, people are mad as hell, and we have to do something. Did I give a damn whether or not we agreed on abortion rights and all that other stuff? At that moment, no. What I cared about is making sure that my city did not erupt because people are sick and tired of police brutality when it happens. That's it. And I set aside all the things, and so did he, that we didn't agree with, and said, what can we come together and do with these fancy titles we have to make a difference? And you know what? Even though that was light years ago, 2014, Tamir Rice was shot down less than 2 seconds of the police arriving on the scene, a 12-year-old black boy. In 2014, the latter part of 2014 into 2015, Governor John Kasich and I worked side by side. And you know what? He made this flaming progressive freedom fighter one of the co-chairs of his task force on community and police relations. And we got some things done, period. And I don't care who likes it. That is the story. That is the truth. He could have said, Nina Turner, she done gave me hell all the time. She's been in the Senate. I'm not partnering with her. No, not only did he listen to me and partner with me, he made me a co-chair along with his the director of public safety, John Bourne. So don't tell me what cannot be done when people put aside differences. Now we can come back and fight on abortion rights or voting rights or all the other things we disagreed on. But in this moment right here, we are going to do some good and try to make some changes in this state. And that's what we did, y'all. So did I get a whole bunch of grief and hate and how dare she, and she ain't progressive enough and she done sold out? Hey, I know this is a PG-13.
No, it's okay.
But F them, okay? Because see, I ain't got time for that nonsense when I'm trying to do some good.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is as close as you will ever get to Nina Turner dropping an F-bomb. So that is pretty damn good. And
I've heard it in private.
And we've said
yes, I have. But it's
But do you both agree with me? Like, we got too many issues to solve to deal with that pettiness.
I've said many a times, and I will continue to say, that progressives and libertarians have a lot more in common than they're willing to admit, especially when it comes to war, when it comes to civil liberties, hell, even when it comes to healthcare, once they finally understand. Because the one thing you agree with libertarians are, they are fanatical about not wasting money. And what would be more useful of our money if we remove the for-profit middlemen in between us and our doctors?
Right, libertarians can generally be reasoned with.
Yes, 100%. And recognizing who is actually going to be part of this non-corporate coalition is going to be people that are not going to agree with whether or not you use pronouns, for example. This is not a world we're going to live in where you can think that wrapping yourself in bubble paper is going to be something that can sustain itself. In closed circles, maybe, but in reality, that is not how the real world works. Sam Cedar did say it best on our podcast. The online left really doesn't understand how small their world is, and they have this misconception that the way things are on Twitter, for example, is the way things are in the real world.
They have delusions of grandeur of themselves.
That if you go and talk to somebody who is living in a plighted area in Akron, they don't give a damn about what some person is arguing about on Twitter. They care about the fact that their water is not safe. They care about the fact that their jobs don't pay enough, that they don't have health care, and their opportunities are somewhat limited, if at all. And to me, that's the message that if it gets out there enough, the way that it should, I mean, you're the best of us. You've always been the best of us. And I will never forget the way that you handled yourself on national television when Hillary Rosen pulled that ish with you. And I just think if anybody had reacted in a way where if you want to talk about the most blatant form of racism that you could ever see from a Karen get thrown in your direction, and the way you handled it, I remember just thinking to myself, Nina, please, don't let her get to you. Don't let her get you. That's what she's looking for. She wants you to overreact because she's protected and you're not. And you could not have handled it better. And I just wish more people understood what that loyalty to Bernie meant and to the movement and recognizing. And another thing, if you could touch on, there is a lack of appreciation. Not that it's this quid pro quo loyalty, but the loyalty to the cause and recognize that we're fighting for something bigger than ourselves. Even though Bernie wasn't perfect, he did so much to drive the country in the right direction.
I can't stand it when people bitch about Bernie. It makes me insane.
Yeah. No, who is perfect? You know, I come from a religious tradition. I mean, you guys know, and people who have gotten to know me over the years, even from a distance, I come from a Black liberation theology tradition. There's something in scripture that says, you know, he without sin cast the first stone. So let's put in he, she, they, anybody without sin cast the first stone. And we can interpret that to mean lots of things. Yeah. Ultimately, it is what the three of us are saying, that if more times than not, the person who has been privileged to hold people's power, that more times than not, they're doing the right things, on top of saying the right things, standing up for the right things. Even when you disagree here or there, so what? It is the best chance. Let's take our sisters and brothers in the squad, for example. All right. They didn't do that. What was that boat thing? You know, that first one. And people wanted to totally cancel them. Then you turn around. They stand strong for President Biden's agenda and says, don't separate Build Back Better from the infrastructure bill, because if you do, Build Back Better is not going to happen. And they took hit after hit after hit from every single side. And you know what? They were proven right. But they had the courage to say, we're going to take the hits from the corporatist Dems, the six of us, for standing up and saying, we are not voting for that infrastructure bill, because Build Back Better, which had the social infrastructure attached to it, is not going to happen if we do.
We knew that.
Yeah,
we knew that. Everybody who knew that. Like, it wasn't at all a surprise.
You are obviously very close with members of the squad without saying anything specific, which would come from one person or not, because obviously there is a collection. But if you could speak on their behalf and more or less just share with people, what is it that they're afraid of? Because a lot of people on the outside are always questioning, well, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? Could they have held the line? Did they not hold the line? Is it a question of committees? From your perspective, what do you think it is at this point in time right now that makes them a little gun shy as far as like really digging their heels in like the Tea Party would back in the day?
I mean, they held the line for something that is one of the most consequential, most consequential bill right now in this moment, even though they done gutted the hell out of Build Back Better. But we can talk about that at another show. They did hold the line. I would say that one of the things that kinds of, and not speaking for any of them, but do you know what it's like to have to fight people who are like within your own family, so to speak, and then you got to fight the other folks too? And that's what they endure all the time. It's the same thing that Senator Sanders endures. And so that is why those of us who are on the progressive left have to have, Roseanne DeMarle said it best. She said, she was the former executive director of National Nurses United, love her so much. But she said, we have got to be more strategic and more disciplined. Like, you don't throw away our best chances. Now, that doesn't mean you agree with them. That doesn't mean that they're infallible. But the squad has more than proven themselves to be our best chance at any of this. And so they need those of us who are on the outside, not to just give them a free pass, because I would never say give any politician a free pass. That's not what I don't think politicians should be worshiped and given a free pass and all of that kind of stuff. No, we hold the people's power. We need to be critiqued and held accountable and pushed. But you don't try to cancel your best options. That's all. And just being uplifted from time to time and thanked from time to time. They catch levels of hell that so many people don't know about because they're not out here talking about that.
Ilhan Omar? How about just her alone? I mean,
yes,
walking her shoes for one day.
For one day. And look at what Congresswoman Cori Bush did on the housing thing. Even though the Supreme Court bunked it all up, but she forced them people. She shamed the Democrats to come back and to extend that moratorium, even though the Supreme Court messed it up. And then the Republicans forget about it. Today's Republicans, especially on the federal level, God help us. And that is why we need the Democratic Party to use the power that the people gave them to fight like hell for the people, because the Republicans have lost their ever-loving minds. They have. And so since we are still a two-party nation, and that is why I'm so hard and passionate, hard on Democrats. Because the Republicans, forget about them. They trying to suppress the vote everywhere. You got 550 bills percolating in 47 states across this country. Some of them have become law to try to crush opportunities to participate in voting. And then Democrats have all of the power in the Congress. And you mean to tell me we're going to let a parliamentarian tell you can't raise the minimum wage? You mean to tell me you're going to let somebody like Joe Manchin and Sinema stand in the way of having paid family leave? Jesus, bringing down the cost of pharmaceutical drugs. Last time I checked, we are in a worldwide pandemic. Or am I missing something? Right. This is the time to go bold. This is the time, and that's why we need fighters like the squad. We need other people to join ranks, even if it's just on one issue and they go back to what they believe in. But if we can get that kind of solidarity on the issues that will help to change the material conditions of people in this country, that is what we want. And that's why I'm asking, what is my best and highest use?
You know what? And different people would probably give you different answers to that. It's really a matter of where do you feel most effective? Where do you feel? Because really anything you touch would be gold, right? Like whatever you do is going to be great. So, where do you get the most bang for the buck, right? Like that's the...
I know I've been doing a lot of soul searching, you guys. And I'm publicly in your arena. Just thank you two again so very much. Thank you is not even enough for some of the people in this movement who came to my aid, who were right there by my side, and even the people who just could not fly into Cleveland. But I just want to say to you both, it meant so much to me to see you in Cleveland. I noted there were times that you were talking about my campaign and lifting me up when I didn't even know that you both were doing it. You are class acts, and we need more independent media like what you are able to do on this platform to help people like me, and not just people running for office, but people who understand that all of us have a role to play in advancing justice. All of
Yes.
us.
And we need to accept other people's lanes. And when I say to people like stay in your lane, I don't mean that, oh, this is all mine. I just mean
Sure.
everybody has whatever is their best contribution, and people need to stop judging other people and just do your thing. Because there is space for everybody to like. I was giving political campaign advice to a Republican running for city commission in a small town in Florida today. He was asking me how to do a service-based campaign and how to do this and it's a pretty red community. I mean, it is what it is. So he represents those constituents, and that's what I'm about. I'm not going to sit there and argue with him about policy. He wants to serve his community. That's a good thing. And if they don't like it, then they can not vote for him.
But if you take the corporate special interests out of the equation, like in Florida, for example, it doesn't matter if Ron DeSantis is the governor, if everybody is bought off by land developers. There's not going to be a resistance to that type of an agenda, whether it's through Big Sugar or through FP&L and so on. Corporate special interest is the issue of our time, and we can't get barred down, like you said, in the minutia of these wedge issues. If your argument is always going to be about abortion or the Second Amendment or LGBTQ, we're never going to get anywhere because people are going to dig in their heels and say, I'm not moving on this issue. But it's amazing, as I'm sure you've found out, that when it comes to issues like healthcare, when it comes to education, when it comes to war and the environment, there is a lot of agreement, significantly more than there is disagreement.
For sure.
And I'm thinking that, if you're part of independent media, I mean, if we only had like a tenth of the size of a show as some of these other big wigs have, I can't even imagine what we would be able to accomplish.
No, we're small and fledgling, but we get some seriously good star power guests. That is something we do. Nina, we had Oliver Stone on for Veterans Day.
Go ahead with your bad sales.
I know. I was very excited about that. Like you're quite a get to. I'm just saying. But I mean,
thank you.
For our small show.
But if we're being honest here, the biggest reason why we are in this predicament is we're also dealing with this huge problem with big tech suppressing our ability to get our message out there. We hear about it all the time. Kyle Kulinski talks about it on his show. He had mentioned recently that at the height of Secular Talk's growth, he was getting about 40, 50,000 new subscribers a month. Now he gets 500. I mean, if that doesn't tell you that they recognize our power, and that's what I would tell people, is that they recognize that if we figure out a way to really build this thing out, the sky's the limit in terms of what we can accomplish. I think that's really got to be the key message. And so I think one of the best places for us to, more or less wind down the conversation is to talk about, it's been 6 years now since this whole odyssey began, the whole Bernie Trump phenomenon, if you will. And I'm curious, is from your perspective, what have we learned? Because this thing really started in a way where I can still remember the spring of 2015, and anyone who was talking about just Medicare for all was this idea of, well, you just want the government to take over healthcare, which is crazy. But now it's more about, are we going to pass it in California through the CalCare Act? Are we going to pass it through the New York Health Act? We are going, and this is why you're so great at what you do. You have this way of conveying the message where it becomes, they're only going to be able to keep us out for so long. Because we fight, and we are not paid to fight. We fight because we believe in this. The ones who are fighting against us, they kind of have to be paid to basically tell us we're not entitled to anything. So I'm curious.
That is so true.
What do you think we've learned over the last 6 years in terms of how far we've come and where do we go next? Because obviously it's going to be a rough year for Democrats. We know that, but there's a lot of initiatives that we can really be working on that I think can set the precedent for the future. So where do you see it right now from where we started and where we are at this point?
Despite our disappointments, and we have every right to be disappointed, especially with such immense suffering. We know that people were suffering before the pandemic, but the pandemic just exacerbated the suffering already. Those are facts. despite all of that, or in spite of all of that, our movement has changed the entire narrative. We have changed the entire debate. You know, just think about the difference between 2016 and even 2020. Everything that our movement, for the most part, have been fighting for was debated on those stages in a presidential debate. We did that. Our movement did that. And there is no denying that Senator Bernie Sanders was the spark. We are the flame. And so people like me, people like you, I mean, we all have a role to play. You know, even with my 2-year-old grandson, I want to give this an example. He loves puzzles now. Every day he wants to do a puzzle with Yaya. And I'm thinking about those, and I hate puzzles, y'all. Don't never tell him that.
Oh, I love puzzles. I'm
But
disappointed to hear
you're
that.
gonna have to come and help do puzzles, but I'm getting pretty good at it. And but he loves it. He loves the puzzle. I purchased some puzzles, God only knows why, but I know it helps analytical thinking, and he loves it. And so he forces me to do it several times a day. But here's my point. I'm going somewhere with that story. Every piece, no piece is the same. That's my point. No piece is the same. So when I'm putting that puzzle together with my grandson, he didn't say, yeah. Well, he's 2-year-old, but you understand where I'm going. This piece, I don't like this piece. We're not going to put it on. You know what his goal is to put that puzzle together to see the beautiful picture that it creates. Every piece is necessary. And that is what I want our movement to understand. Every piece is necessary. And it is together that we represent the whole picture. So we are changing the game, and that is why they come at us so viciously, whether it's trying to deflate us through coming at leaders like me, or whether it's coming at independent media. They know that our humanitarian efforts, that, yeah, you're right, they're only going to be able to hold us back for so long. Ultimately, we are going to win. And can I say this lastly? I've done several shows so far about MLK, my recordings and stuff. And I was rereading the book, The Radical King, that was edited and introduced by the one and only Dr. Cornel West, where he takes Dr. King's works and he puts them in a radical perspective, because we know during this time of year, people want to just make it seem like Dr. King wasn't radical. No, Dr. King was radical, especially when he complained about the Vietnam War, and he said militarism, poverty, and materialism is going to wipe us out. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what got me. So I'm in the introduction, and this is Dr. Cornel West, like, analyzing Dr. King. He said King indeed had a dream, but it was not the American dream, as we know it. King's dream was rooted in the American dream. It was what the quest for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness looked like for people enslaved and Jim Crowed and terrorized and traumatized and stigmatized by American laws and American citizens. The litmus test for realizing King's dream was neither a black face in the White House nor a black presence on Wall Street. Now, this is my point, sisters and brothers, family and friends. Rather, the fulfillment of his dream was for all poor and working people to live lives of decency and dignity.
The second that people recognize that this is a class war.
Come on.
What it is.
But you know what? But the problem is that a lot of people get upset that we're like diverting attention from serious racial injustice. And so it is important to sort of have be paying attention to both things. But I believe that what got King killed was working with the labor unions and working on behalf of the poor people's campaign and speaking out against the war, because the Civil Rights Act was already a done thing at that point.
That's exactly it. They told him he had no right as a civil rights leader to be talking about those issues. Let me go back to something. Class and caste go together. Yeah. Now, we cannot talk about class issues without talking about race issues. So we need our sisters and brothers and family and friends that are not of color to recognize that we must have those conversations. In those conversations, however, is the class dynamic. And both things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
And what the power structure knows is that when we start being united based on caste and class, baby, it's over. They know this.
Yeah.
They know it.
So what are we going to do in 24? What are we going to do? Like, we talk about this because they're going to try to put some sort of Kamala Pete situation together.
You talked about,
and it's freaking me out.
Yeah.
And that is just not acceptable representation.
Don't freak out. This is what's going to happen. Look, 2024 is going to take care of itself. I really believe that our focus should be 2022 and 2023 before we get to 2024. And it is making sure that our movement pushes Democrats to use the power that they have in service to the people who need it the most. That's it. And our movement, 2024 is going to take care of itself. Can you imagine if President Biden was signing an executive order canceling student debt, or even canceling the 10,000 that he promised he would? Can you imagine?
Oh, come on,
yeah.
man.
And you know what? As I said, when we had a student debt justice warrior on our show as a speaker, and no, he was great. And I actually that day had just paid off my law school debt. Finally, like, I'm 22 years out, and I paid off my law school debt, which to me is sort of like me getting my car washed. So now I think it's absolutely going to happen. Now they're going to write off the student loan debt because I paid mine. So you all now have a better chance. That's my sacrifice for all of you.
And you don't mind making the sacrifice, do you?
It had to get paid. But I never had an obscene, like, yeah, I owed a lot of money. I went to a private school. It was what I did. But I never had usurious interest rates. I never had any. I was consolidated at a very good interest rate. Like, I was not somebody who felt like abused by it. But yeah, I had to pay it off for a very, very, very
long time. But it is an abusive system, and it should not be. We do not have to send people to a lifetime of paying off student debt. And depending on what type of job you get, it could take you till you damn near 70 to pay this debt off. This is wrong, and it must change. Cancel all the debt. I mean, we're for canceling all debt, but at least cancel what you promised you were. I mean, when you got people like Senator Chuck Schumer saying, go ahead, do 50,000 worth. That is another example of how our movement is doing that. And that's what I want people to know. So I love you all so very, very much.
Nina.
You know, we could do this for another 45 minutes.
Nina, it never gets old. I didn't squeal today because I did know you were coming. But if it's a surprise, that's when I get I get all excited.
No, it's close enough. But if there's anything, obviously, we know you have a show on TYT. If there's anything else that you are working on right now that you want to plug, let everybody know what you're up to.
We had somebody say the only reason they watch TYT is for you.
Well,
I love them. Please keep watching. And that's another, the people, please keep watching. They're independent media. They're huge. They do a lot of good. Watch them, whether it's me or not, but that definitely makes me feel good. I have my own podcast, Hello Somebody. So please, wherever you get your podcast, subscribe, like, download, listen to, do that for us, sister. That would help me out a lot. I'm on Twitter at Nina Turner. Instagram, Nina Turner, Ohio, because somebody had Nina Turner. Y'all know it's only one, the Nina Turner, but somebody had Nina Turner, Ohio, and on Facebook. And I am going to keep pushing no matter what. I want people to know that. I know you two already know that. And whether I run again or not, just know that I am a freedom fighter to my core. And I am going to continue to do everything that I can to do my part, to be my piece on the puzzle, to make good and justice happen in this world. I'm definitely, all of my options are open, and who knows?
We all wait with bated breath for that announcement. We were like, we're just going to wait for that announcement.
There is nobody more inspiring from the moment that we met in Philly in the church, and obviously everything that's happened since.
That was so good.
It was, and you know what? I know why they did what they did to you at the convention. Not a lot of people do, but at that moment, I knew who you really were, and I just said, "This is the one I'll follow. I'll follow you to wherever you go." And anybody who ever questions who you are and what you do,
I know.
Well,
we're fans. We're big fans. But
I love you guys.
Love you, and you're just one of the people that is such a net positive. Like, you are just
thank you.
Net
I'm not perfect though.
No, that's why we say net positive. Everybody has. Look, it's all shit and glitter, is what I say.
You finally cursed.
I don't care.
We made it
I
long,
say
and
everything is shit and glitter. And
I like that.
Everybody has whatever they do, and the idea is to contribute more glitter than shit. And that is sort of what that's my striving towards. And you are definitely much more glitter.
I saw one of your viewers, I missed their name, but I love what they said. I think they wrote, I read. I think they something like I'm agnostic, but if military had a church.
And you know that I'm completely secular. I'm nothing, and I was actually thinking that too. Like, I feel like I get enough church just from talking to you. Like, I feel like that's what it would be like going to church.
Well, it's supposed to be uplifting.
It's inspiring.
It is.
That is the message.
Well, I love that person. Mario, I think is the last name.
Mario's a good friend.
Oh, so Mario, thank you. That makes
keep being amazing. Obviously, there's a lot that is going to take place, and
you know where to find us when you decide what you're doing, or if whatever.
If you need us for anything, we'll be right there for you, my friend.
Thank you. Love you all, and if I can reciprocate, you let
Nina
me
Turner,
know.
the one and only. Thanks for coming on. We will see you soon.
Happy New Year, everybody.
You too.
Happy New Year.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Nina. Well, again,
and I was like, she's lovely.
That lovely doesn't begin to describe.
But I say that about everybody that I just meet. I love Nina. I do. Fuck everybody that made her life difficult. Doesn't matter. I already was the.
Yeah, it's like you already gave away the farm.
Seriously,
so
fuck anybody who made her life difficult, because the fact that you do not see that as a net positive and the best of all options that we could possibly have means there's something wrong with you. So yeah.
You guys really did a number on her, and it's pretty obvious that for somebody who really holds it together, she feels very comfortable with us and was willing to basically say some things that she probably generally wouldn't normally say. So I think we need to really get our heads straight regarding how we are going to advance as a movement. Because as I said, if there's a lot of people who would rather be right than be effective. Being effective is, you wouldn't dare do that with her here. Being effective is what I want to be.
Because that would be disrespectful. And unless it's a particular person that I know is like a part, I just don't do that all the time. I usually wait till guests leave.
Former producer and friend John Holder says all the people on Twitter with Julian Assange profile pictures are going to come after you hard. And again, who was the first person who did an Assange telethon?
You know what?
I'm just saying.
You know what?
Just saying.
I'm very comfortable in where I stand on the Julian Assange. I'm very comfortable with myself, as are people like Gabriel and John Shipton and Stella Morris. I'm just saying, like, the people who know and care most about Julian Assange, they like us. So you all can go do it.
Have to keep building this coalition as we talk about. I think that is the goal. I think that we're going to experiment with some different formats going forward. I'm going to, do some.
Peter feels the need to come on and rant.
It's not just ranting.
You want to come on and have like a monologue.
I want to be able to, whatever.
No, it's good. Say it. I'm saying I agree. Have your monologue.
And you
do
can
it.
And you can have yours too.
I can't plan a rant. I don't think I can usually plan a rant.
No, I'm just saying I'm not planning it. I'm saying
I
would do
a
separate show is what I'm saying.
I was looking at that to pull up the stories.
Kayla, can't say for sure, but I think she wants to. That's the feeling that I got.
We do our best to encourage that.
But
and I will occasionally send a little text that says, plans? ? Just sort of putting that out there.
Yeah, and again, I think anytime anybody runs for office, they have to assess the situation and recognize that even if you want to run, you have to know what you're running for and if it's viable. There's a lot of people who think that how do you put it? That they think that they want that seat.
Yes, a lot of people want that job, but it doesn't mean that job wants them.
That's true.
And that's something that a lot of people have to. It's a come to Jesus moment.
And I really think that that's what it is for Nina. I think that with her circumstance, I think she was probably very humbled about what happened. She probably had no idea. I mean, listen, I think she knew that they were going to come at her hard. I don't think they thought they were going to throw $3 million into a congressional race in advertising in the last week and a half. I mean, that's nuts. But that just goes to show you how much they feared her voice on Capitol Hill.
As well they should.
And as I have always said, there are certain people who will go places that others will not. Nina doesn't need this job or career the way somebody like AOC does. It's completely different. And I think that if she was there, she would, I don't want to say corral everybody, but she would certainly stand out, if that makes sense.
Oh, and then some.
Yeah. And I think that that's a big part of it. But she is the best of us. I've always felt that way. I always felt that she was the best surrogate that Bernie could have ever hoped to have, that she was willing to go places and do things that nobody else was willing to do. And when I see people, come after her the way that they did, it's like, shame on you. Shame on all of you. There's got to be a line. Yeah, we don't agree with Nina having Jeff Weaver on our campaign. Does that mean Nina Turner's a bad person? I mean, at some point, you're never going to get everything that you want. It's never going to happen.
But let me tell you, that's as close to as perfect of a representative as you will ever find.
Especially in the legislative office. One of the reasons why I used to have a difference of opinion when it came to the presidency, but I really do think if we got a non-corporate president elected, that would be a very important thing to strive for. Why? Because the executive office is a separate but equal branch of government. You can get one person in there who has the executive authority to have a tremendous impact on this country, whether it is canceling student debt, whether it is expanding Medicare to everybody, whether it is taking cannabis off of Schedule I drugs or decriminalizing all drugs for that matter, getting us out of wars, recognizing that we don't need to be wasting all the money that we waste on the military. He is the commander-in-chief, or she would be the commander-in-chief. There's a lot of things to consider in terms of the importance of that position. But the one thing I didn't get a chance to talk to with Nina that I would have brought up is even if the squad, and I know she has to defend them, and that's understandable, as they are ineffective as they are on Capitol Hill, where they are effective, which cannot be denied, is how much of an impact they make at home.
Yes.
The impact that Cori Bush makes in St. Louis, the impact that Jamal Bowman and AOC make in New York City, the impact that Ilhan Omar makes in the Twin Cities, or Rashida Tlaib makes in Detroit. Those things can't be understated because they do matter.
People don't see that. See, people only look at one aspect of being a representative, and that's the policy-making aspect, the time that they spend in D.C. fighting with each other in political theater. That stuff is nonsense, and you're not going to see big sweeping changes there. What you can see are people that use their position to, one, serve their community and to represent their community. That's the key.
I think Kayla brings up an excellent point, which is very important here. If the consensus from the Black community, and that is a Black district, supports Nina, then that is very important. Where Nina ended up getting destroyed was in the affluent white, yes, Jewish suburbs of Northeast Cleveland.
I want to ask though, like, do we know what their redistricting situation is there? Like, what does it look like right now?
Well,
because
that's again,
another thing, and that
very
well could be part of it.
This is why and that is true, and that is why Nina is smart. See, Nina knows. This is
why we are not running.
Yeah, because again, you don't know what the district lines are going to look like. Now, apparently, the gerrymandering is apparently not going to be as bad this time around, and that's refreshing. Doesn't mean it's not going to be bad. It'll be bad, but it will be as bad. No, and that's good to know. But one of the worst states in terms of the Republican legislature in the country, and this is why Nina was so gung-ho about being anti-Republican, is because the Republicans in Ohio are nuts. And they are led by representatives like Jim Jordan.
Well, you say that as if ours aren't.
I'm not. Well, Florida's another one.
Okay.
100%.
Oh, so I just wanted to mention, I don't know if Rita's still watching, but my friend Rita was watching, and she'd asked something about why unions are so, like, why we have no activity. I mean, we're a right to work state. Unions are neutered here. I honestly don't know why we even have them, because they can't really do anything.
Well,
but yeah, that's a problem. And another thing that we are going to be pushing is the PRO Act, as always.
100%. And then we also have a very important piece of legislation for the firefighters that we are going to be focusing on.
Yeah.
They do not get proper coverage.
We need to very soon do an episode about this.
Yeah.
The different bills, and put it out there, like the different things that we're following. Okay. Hi, Rita.
I would like to be able to speak to somebody on the Hill. You know who we really want to get on the podcast? I'm going to email Nina's people. There's a couple of people from the Bernie orbit that we really would love to get on. Number one, of course, is Dr. Cornel West. He's somebody that we would absolutely love to have.
I don't know. I was so stupid when I met him.
Yeah. He'll forgive you. And
he doesn't. I assure you, he doesn't remember me.
And the other person that we would really like to have on is Bernie's shadow man, as I like to say. And that, of course, is Warren Gunnels. If anybody knows anything about federal policy in terms of the issues that we're really focused on, this is the guy. He is the guy. He may not really want to do something like that. Yes, Kayla, we agree 1,000%. In terms of being able to get union support,
everyone loves the firefighters.
The firefighters are right at the top of the list.
Because
So-
how can you not like them? It's as close as you could get to being a superhero.
Uh,
John Holder, Elijah Manley is doing well. Tomorrow's the election. We're working polls at some point.
Yep.
Can you stop
Sorry,
that?
I
It's
was
kind
itchy.
of, I know, but it's
It's itchy.
grossing me out that you're doing that.
I'm sorry.
So he's doing well. I did a little
We've got it.
bar hop canvassing for him
Yes.
on Saturday
Had a
night.
good time, right?
Yeah, it was really fun.
So
In
we will be at the polling station in Plantation tomorrow. So we will be helping out.
Yes. Tomorrow is the election day. So guys, if you're local and anybody who's local who would be watching this knows that it's an election.
Correct.
That's the thing. We're not having any new people out there that don't know.
So
So
imagine how much different our country would look if we had a bottom-up approach
yes.
in terms
So
of elections.
guys, anybody out there, if you do live in District 94 for the Florida legislature and you haven't voted, tomorrow is the election. So you need to go vote for Elijah.
So before we bring on our final guest of the evening, the wonderful David Kim, running for Congress in California's 34th district,
Do we have time to do
news
these?
and we'll make it quick. We'll do it. We'll do what we got to
Yeah,
do
easy
here.
for you to say. I have to put the thought into it. Look at that demonic Mickey.
Have you?
He's got fangs. He's an angry Mickey.
Oh, God, because I thought we had a problem around here, huh?
Okay, so this is something that I found very interesting and not surprising. And the truth is that I do know this, but it was really good for me to see that somebody's actually writing about this. And this is in what's Daily Kos.
The Daily Kos. And
Daily
what
Kos.
was more interesting is that, a lot of people had mentioned recently that Disney World was going to have, complete renewable energy powering the park. And that's nice, but they don't take care of their workers.
Right. So the headline is "The happiest place on earth is a nightmare for thousands struggling to make a living."
Mm-hmm.
Metro Orlando is one of the most visited places in the entire world. We know that.
Yes.
If you've ever been there, you know that. It's considered to be the happiest place on earth in Disney World. It's not a vacation for the people that live there. So there's a well-known caste system that locals have understood for decades, yet only recently has been getting some attention from the outside world. This is something that people don't realize, that when you get outside of Disney Lake Buena Vista Celebration, where like the worker bees live, it really is a very it's almost like you see the periphery in Orlando. Many families in the area are trapped in cycle of poverty that has been for generations. And the sick thing is that these families are indeed working. And that's the thing. Orlando has the lowest paid labor force of any metro area in the United States and is ranked the worst in the nation for access to low-income housing. That's and by the way, a huge amount of those people are either Disney employees or Universal employees. They're
Correct.
all service. This is like all service industry to make everyone else have fun at the happiest place on earth. And yet I didn't even realize that the lowest paid labor force of any metro area in the country is
Not a
Orlando.
surprise.
No, it's not. Again, not a surprise, but I didn't know that fact. That's pathetic.
How tyrannical can you possibly be as an organization, I guess is the question. Pretty damn terrible. And that is one of the reasons why we do not go to Disney.
Well,
And
I don't go for a myriad of reasons, but the entire—
There's that word, Jen.
You love it.
Yes.
The entire county of Osceola, which includes Kissimmee, that's where Disney is. Disney's not really in Orlando, people, but
True.
which includes Kissimmee, has no homeless shelters. Meanwhile, as tourism has recovered from the pandemic and theme parks are again posting record attendance, it's unforgivable to hear horrifying stories of families without basic amenities or even sanitation. So yeah, that's a problem. You're opening up your theme parks. You want the people to work there, but they have nowhere to live.
That's true.
That's a problem.
And if you do not deal with cost of living, you are going to deal with a massive spike in crime, because that's what's coming, and it's probably already there.
Oh, and dare you say that? Remember,
Yeah.
AOC got in trouble for saying there was a link between poverty and crime.
No, it's true. Again, what do you want people to do? There is this idea that, again, it used to be we lived in a country where people were criticized for not working. Okay, fine. But you criticize people for having a job and wanting to get a better pay so they can survive, and you're like, get a better job. It's like you have completely succumbed to the Ayn Rand mindset of economics.
Here's the problem with that, is that even if you're of the opinion that someone should find a better job, then what you are saying is that the job that they're currently doing is not worthy of a livable wage. See, that's the problem. So maybe what you should do is sit down and make a list of jobs that are worthy and are not worthy of a livable wage, and look at all the ones that you don't think are worth a livable wage, and then ask yourself, who's going to do that for you? Because that's the problem. It's infuriating.
Now, we will come back to focus on Florida, but
Because I told you we didn't have time to get into it. Okay, but we did talk about the happiest place on earth. I do have several other good stories.
I do think
sad
that
stories.
This is a conversation that's been a long time coming, as we know. He is one of two candidates who was endorsed for Congress in 2020. The other is this person right here by Andrew Yang. And I think that when we talk about this coalition between not me, us, and the Yang Gang, I think it really starts here between these two amazing people.
For me, it was about the food that they had at the convention in Orlando. Next to the Bernie group, the Yang Gang had the best food.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear about a lot of great food that you get in Southern California, especially in Los Angeles, Koreatown. There is a lot of great things to talk about. He ran for Congress last election cycle and did very well, mind you. He is running again against incumbent Jimmy Gomez in California's 34th Congressional District. David Kim, welcome to Generational Change.
Hi, thank you so much for having me both. It's great to be here on Generational Change, finally.
Hey, thank you for coming. So have there been any changes to your district since you ran last time? I mean, we're all kind of like grappling with what's happening with redistricting and where the lines are being done and stuff like that. So has any of that affected you at all from your last election to now?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, we were definitely even more at angst about what the final redistricting would look like. And in regards to, it hasn't been finalized yet, but in regards to what happened was we essentially got all of our district back, except for a few neighborhoods that were shaved off on the left side, and unfortunately, but we did gain some great neighborhoods of Los Angeles back into the district from East LA, some southern parts of LA, and then also Frogtown, which is a district or a neighborhood that has been neglected by both our district and the neighboring district, Adam Schiff's district, for quite some time. And so there definitely has to be a reintroducing ourselves to those newer parts of the district, but that's also something that the incumbent has to do as well, which we know he's not good at. And so we have the advantage of doing that.
Yeah, because he probably doesn't give a crap about the district. So why would you bother to go meet new people when you don't even care about the people that are already there?
Well, but the good news is that you really have made an incredible impact. And I have to say, we talk about this all the time. We do not agree with everything that is on the Yang Gang platform, but my goodness gracious me.
Neither do I.
Yeah, there is no group, there is no political group that is more active and willing to put in the work than the Yang Gang.
It's true.
They made a bigger impact on Jen's campaign than anybody else. So when anybody gets critical about whether they are not progressive enough, it's like, listen, sometimes that's not the answer. The answer is, are you going to get stuff done? And look at the coalition you built in one election cycle and how I think you got 47% of the vote on a first campaign. That's fantastic. And not only that, but in terms of how much you raised versus how much Representative Gomez raised, and again, you did it with all grassroots donations, correct?
Yes, that's totally correct. I think our fundraising director, Tracy, broke it down, given that he raised multiple folds than we did. And he also takes more corporate PAC and special interest money than a majority of Republicans in the House and the Senate. And so computing the numbers, basically for every vote, we had spent $1 something and change. For every vote, he spent $12 and something and change. And so that shows you right there in terms of how much we were outraised, yet we came really close, 47%, 96,554 votes, and just lost by a couple thousand.
Wow, that's a lot of votes. Like, that's really impressive. People don't understand how this works. They don't understand how that works. They say, oh, you win, you lose, but they don't see the momentum and the movement as the numbers start to change and people start to get educated. And that's why it's often not easy to do the first time that you run, because the name recognition obviously matters. And even the money matters, but you've proven, and even we have proven, that the money isn't the only thing that matters. It can be done, but it definitely takes some name recognition, and that's what canvassing is for. But you are definitely the grassroots candidate, and people don't understand that even if we don't agree on everything, You're the candidate that's wanting to actually serve the community and represent the people. And that is what we care about. We don't have to agree on everything. We need to elect people that are not corporate whores and that use things like reason and sound judgment to make decisions. And that was what I always loved about Andrew Yang. I don't have to agree with him. Andrew Yang's not a dictator. Andrew Yang is not somebody that will get elected to president and be going, my way or the highway, and this is what I think. No, he would surround himself with smart people. And I think that that's something people overlook. Like they think they have to agree with you on everything. And it's very frustrating. Sorry, that was my rant.
No, I understand the frustration, Ben. And I think that both of you were how and it's not such.
Wait, you're breaking up. You're breaking up with your microphone.
There's a little bit of issue with your audio, David.
Yeah, your mic is not clear. Like it was good, and then it was like cutting out.
Let's see.
Okay, no.
It's
Okay.
choppy.
A little choppy.
Let me take out.
Take out the headphones and just do it without them.
See how that works.
Yeah. Now you have to change the thing.
He'll get it.
Okay, now I got it, right?
Yes, there we go.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, thank you so much. You both had mentioned that we gained a lot of momentum, and we were very surprised too, but not quite surprised because locally here in Los Angeles, a lot of movement is happening. And in regards to Los Angeles, we saw Nithya Raman win city council, and she is a very strong progressive leader that won here in LA. And we honestly thought we were going to win as well. We didn't, but we came really close, and it does show a lot. Constantine Anthony also ran and won Burbank City Council here as well. And so now this new cycle, 2022, we have so many different awesome candidates here. We have Eunices Hernandez running for City Council. We have Brian Odega, Yasmin Pomeroy, Kenneth Mejia running all on the city level.
Kenny.
Yeah.
I know Kenny. I've known him for years. He's
awesome. Not me, us. Yeah, Bernie. Yeah. Totally. He goes back way to the old Bernie days and 2016. And then our other congressional candidates, Shervin Asami, Angelica Dueñas, Daniel Lee, maybe. Like there's so many great candidates, and I think we're just building upon the ceiling that we reached last time, and now it's our floor to stand on, and we're going to continue building. And what was great about our campaign is, like what you were mentioned, we had Bernie supporters, we had Yang Gang supporters, we had Marianne Williamson supporters, we had even those that considered themselves moderate also voting for us because they're also sick and tired of the status quo and nothing changing. Here in LA, we're pretty much used for statistics in terms of the number of unhoused residents climbing each year and the number of people not having housing and healthcare. But we're more than that. We're thousands and millions of people and lives and communities, and not just statistics. And so I think it's really comes down to a time where these leaders need to act from their heart, act and lead with compassion. And so that's what we're doing with our campaign. And I think that's what everybody connected to.
What are the biggest issues facing Los Angelenos these days? Obviously, we talk about cost of living. To live in Los Angeles, it's almost near impossible these days to actually, in terms of, where the minimum wage is, what the job opportunities are, especially in the neighborhoods, obviously that you're looking to represent. Obviously, I would imagine healthcare, the environment.
I'm going to go with traffic is my biggest problem with LA. Now, my husband's from the area, and he says he'll only go if he doesn't ever have to get on the 405. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what would you say are the biggest issues?
What are your big issues there?
Well, I think the biggest issues, and these are issues that I know that Jen and her campaign were fighting for last time is of course, single payer healthcare, in terms of environmental justice. Climate change is real. And you see the effects in these heat islands all over the city. And then also during the winter, when you see here in LA, that we have more unhoused people dying from hypothermia than unhoused residents in New York. And so with all of this in play, like, I don't know how possible it is to prioritize one area over the other, but one thing for sure is that our number of people experiencing houselessness here in the city continues to grow and grow astronomically. So why don't we have leaders on the city, state, and federal level all working together and talking and communicating, instead of using their own ideas and their own egos and their own resources to do all of these separate projects here and there, instead of working together in that sense. And so that's one big downfall. And the number two, like, the incumbent, you would think that in a city and in a district that's experiencing houselessness, you would really lead and push on issues regarding housing. But this incumbent hasn't co-sponsored a single major housing bill in Congress, and there's plenty. There's at least 11 big ones. He hasn't co-sponsored a single one, yet he's going around taking photos with the squad saying that he's progressive. And it's like, if the only thing that you took from our campaign is taking pictures with the squad to take hold of your position, I don't think you understood why we ran. Like, I don't see you really fighting for these issues like the homes guarantee. And so I think, going back to your question, definitely housing would be at the top. Healthcare would be at the top. I worked as a juvenile dependency attorney the past year in 2020, and a lot of my clients were vulnerable, Black and brown, didn't have housing and healthcare, and they were being punished for having no resources and having their children taken away from them and put into foster care. And so I think all of those issues matter. But I think at the end of the day, the reason why we can't really push for more change is because of this corporate duopoly that's happening, where corporate PAC money and special interest money is keeping these leaders indifferent and apathetic, and where it keeps them reelected. Why do we meddle into foreign affairs? Because American money's at stake. Their financial interests are at stake. Why do we have big farm and people still not having healthcare? Why do we say that you're co-sponsoring Medicare, but then we still don't have it? Because you're taking corporate PAC special interest money. And so I think one of the top things at my list is taking money out of politics, and I will be super aggressive and ruthless about it. I don't think that's something to be co-opted about in any degree. And then going back to your traffic one, because I do know that that's something that you want me to comment on. The traffic
I want you to fix the traffic problem. Okay, that's what I'm saying to you. If we elect you, will you fix the traffic problem?
No, but I think with that too, Jen, I think it's very important, because when we're getting federal money, infrastructure money, the first thing that's done is to create an even more complex traffic system here in the city instead of fixing it. And so I don't think the solution is necessarily, I mean, yes, you would think expanding lanes, but why aren't we allowing free public transportation here in LA? And why aren't we building upon that? Because we're not investing into that, we're really creating this classist society even more, where because we're not investing into our public transportation system and making it free, of course, we're not going to have buses that run a lot. Of course, we're not going to have subways that run a lot. But if you actually make that your priority, we can become a commuter city and a city that's really good at it. And so I think those are things that we can think outside of the box with, but we're not. And so again, there needs to be communication between city, state, and federal officials, not each level working on their own. But that's what's happening here in LA.
You know, I think a big part of it, why things don't get done, is people that are elected generally only come out during election season to ask for your vote. They tout any sort of thing that they may have even said they thought of doing, and they don't actually have to do anything. And then each one blames the other one. The city people will blame it on the county, and the county people will blame it on the state. Nobody does anything. That's what they do. And it is all because of corporate special interest money. And that is the primary thing that has to happen. If that happened, all of these other things would naturally fall into place. We wouldn't have to be fighting for them, because we would actually live in a majority rule republic, and we would just have the things that we wanted. So it's like the money thing is the key thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's more important than ever. And I mean, these incumbents go ahead and say, oh, but that's not affecting how I do or how I vote. Yeah, it is. Go look at your track record. Where have you been? And I mean, we have this incumbent who was against canceling student debt, against legalizing marijuana, against doing all of this. And now he's slowly changing his positions as if he's been a supporter of that for so long, just to secure his seat again. And that's not the kind of thing we're looking for. We're looking for big radical change. And in regards to taking unpopular stances where you need to, he doesn't want to do it unless he feels that a majority of the quote unquote progressive caucus is on board. Then he'll be on board. Otherwise, he won't take a stance before the majority of progressive caucus does.
We know it's going to be a very long time before we even have a chance to get Medicare for all to the floor in Congress. However, it does look like this legislative session in Sacramento, there may just be a chance to get CalCare enough momentum where it might be possible. Is that something that, even though that this is a statewide issue, that you are focusing on in terms of your campaign to see if we can bring single payer healthcare? Because again, as it happened in Canada, it passed in Saskatchewan and then passed through the provinces. We think the way it's going to pass in the States is it's going to have to pass in a major state like New York or California. And then once that happens, it's going to spiral the rest of the country. Is that something that you see happening? And is that an initiative that you are, helping the cause for?
Of course he is.
Yeah. Jen's been on a interview with me before, so she's like for me. You can actually be my alias. But yeah, no, I definitely see that happening. In regards to CalCare, it's super important that we pass it, AB 1400. In regards to, because even if you look at the different movements that have happened in United States and prior, whether it be with the suffrage movement and whatnot, like states have to start first, because federal, unfortunately, for some reason, they don't get a clue until the states start doing it. And so in regards to CalCare, that's why we went and actively do support and have shown up. This past Saturday, there was a car caravan statewide action, and so we did also participate in our district, and it reminded me of the Yang Gang Basic Income Days, where we did a basic income car parade. But yeah, CalCare, we did that, and it's super important that we continue to do that. So if you're in a state that doesn't have that, like, have hope, continue to organize, start from where you're at right now, because this is also a battle that didn't just come up like that and was done. I mean, it was done because of the long work and patience of a lot of organizers in different parts of the state as well.
Oh, if only we had that.
I was going to say, when David is saying be patient, he's not talking to us, because we will be underwater before we'll get healthcare. So unless you live north of Lake Okeechobee, you need scuba gear before you're going to get health care. So think about that. That
could be a good tagline, Jen. I don't want to be so nihilistic. We're not supposed to be part of that. We're supposed to be part of the optimistic.
No. I am optimistic in general, but not for south of Lake Okeechobee. I'm sorry. Science is science.
We unfortunately here in Florida do not have a lot to really get too excited about. However, what we will say is actually very strong in Florida is we're actually really good at ballot initiatives.
Yes.
That's actually something that is one of our strong suits. And so, speaking of Yang Gang and speaking of Mr. Yang himself, with the Forward Party, he obviously is making ranked choice voting one of the central focuses of his campaign. It looks like, not yet, not a guarantee, but it looks like there's a reasonable chance that ranked choice voting is going to be on the ballot in Florida in 22. The reason I'm bringing this up is because would love to hear your perspective about being one of the two states, you and Washington State, the two states that have jungle primaries. How do you see it, whether it be an advantage?
But that's not the same thing as ranked choice.
I understand that.
Okay.
But in terms of it being an advantage, a disadvantage, how do you see ranked choice voting and or in this case, jungle primaries? Do you see that working in any way to your advantage?
I think I definitely see that working to, specifically since your question is to our campaign's advantage. Let's say if another candidate did enter the primary race here in our CA34 race, and that candidate and I were to receive the majority of the votes than the incumbent, then yeah, for sure, ranked choice voting would help and would knock out the incumbent from being top two. But in a situation where the incumbent has the majority and the second and third candidates are, let's say, the challenging, ideal, progressive, people-powered candidates, and they don't have the majority, then ranked choice voting wouldn't help so much there, and it would just be top two that would advance. So yeah, I felt like I just did a quick math impromptu problem, but
I don't really. This is the thing.
Yes.
When I try to think about that stuff, it just really requires too much brain cells. I tell him the thing I'll never understand, like the point thing with the football games. I don't understand the over under. I don't understand any of that, and I don't understand this whole thing with the primaries. I'll probably never understand it. But I know that anything that allows for more people to have opportunity is better. That's what I know. Like, that's all I need. I don't need to understand all the how it works. I know that the more people that have an opportunity to be involved is better. That's just common sense.
Right. Yeah. No. So, for example, and that's so important, Jen, because so that's why I'm still very supportive of ranked choice voting in California too. Even though some people might say, "Oh, but David, that wouldn't really help you in every situation." Yeah, it wouldn't. But let's say in this scenario, incumbent got 49% this primary. We got, let's say, just random number 31%, and the third candidate got 20%.
Yeah.
Knocked out the incumbent. Incumbent won't be able to advance to the general election because of ranked choice voting. So ranked choice voting is still crucial and important, even in jungle primary states like Washington, California.
Yeah, I think we've come to the realization that ranked choice voting is the closest you're going to get to representing what the majority of people want. That is going to most closely mirror what we would choose if we could sit down and just choose. I think that, and if that were the numbers, then the incumbent shouldn't be there, because clearly most people don't want him. So then that's not who should be there. And I think that's the key thing with ranked choice voting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I mean, Jen is very familiar with call time as a previous candidate. And right now I'm finding that people, like, even those, I mean, I actually don't have sympathy for the rich, and so tax the rich, yes, for sure. But people, even those potential rich donors are saying they have no money, and Jen knows, like, it's hard to get somebody on the phone when you're doing call time. Most of the time you're leaving voicemail message, follow-up text, and follow emails. But then when you do get them on the phone, you do your spiel and you talk. A lot of these people are just like, when you do get them on the phone, are like, oh my gosh, you're the 20th candidate. Oh my gosh, you're the 15th candidate. You're the 30th candidate who's calling me. Who's sharing my contact info? Why are you guys doing this? And honestly, I feel bad somewhat too, because it shouldn't be like this. The election should be publicly financed. There should be something like democracy dollars that Andrew Yang was putting forth.
Yes.
And so I just, it's hard, especially in a district like ours. We live in one of the poorest congressional districts of the country. I think top 15. Per capita income is in the low 20Ks. Average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is over $2,000 a month. So you're going to expect us to go ask for our constituents for money? No, like and so this is why these corporate incumbents continue to get reelected, because it's so hard to even run as a corporate free people powered campaign, because times are tough. And so that's why that's why you don't really hear much success of challenger campaigns. And they only win if they're signed on through Justice Democrats or in that sense. And so it's really something that's a problem that's going to continue to wreak havoc on our communities all around. This whole clean campaign finance really needs to be done and achieved in the next decade, or we're really in some serious trouble.
I agree. I think it's the end of, I mean, we are in an oligarchy that's becoming more and more fascist. And yet we're losing all the levers of control that we had to sort of balance and check, right? Like, we don't have any of that anymore. And every step away from that is really scary. But I know that when we look at what we have, it's a broken republic. Because let's say the majority of people want single payer healthcare, which they do. I don't know the most recent numbers, but it's like 70-something% of people in this country want some form of single payer healthcare.
And that's without even fully knowing the entire, detail,
I'm just saying, right,
how beneficial it would be.
And so if we lived in a functioning republic, we would have single payer healthcare, because that's what most people want. The fact that a very small majority dictates, a small minority dictates what everybody else gets, that's a non-functioning republic. So we're already there. And I do think that it's scarier and scarier, which is why we're supporters of the idea of ballot initiatives. It's as close as we're getting to any sort of popular say-so, because our representatives that are between us and the policies are not representing us. I mean, you know that. And money is a huge part of getting people there. I do think we win when it comes to things like canvassing and social media and people having passion for caring, because yes, they have money and they can pay people to go knock doors. But nothing sells like people that truly believe in what you're doing and have the passion for what you're doing. There's like our volunteers, they were way better than anybody that Debbie could ever afford to go pay to sit at a voting precinct, because they actually are in it because they care, not because they're being paid. And that is something that we have as an advantage as grassroots organizers.
We just need to get better at being much more cohesive, cross-pollination, networking. We need to become a much more well-oiled machine like the Tea Party was. I think that that's really the missing ingredient in many ways in terms of where we really need to be right now. And I really think that, you're doing an excellent job. I mean, look, we're somewhat envious of Southern California in terms of the political activism, the fact that there are so many, like somebody mentioned in the chat that, Southern California really has a solid bench. Like there's a really nice upcoming group of non-corporate candidates and grassroots organizing. That is something that we're severely lacking here in Florida, but frankly is probably lacking in a lot of places.
You should put together the California panel soon.
Yeah, well, your primary's in June, correct?
Yeah.
Correct, June 7th.
We're going to put together, we want to do state panels with the people running in each state and do them kind of together, because I think that it's easier to talk about like statewide issues.
We need to do like a SoCal panel.
Yeah, there's a lot of California people, but yeah, I think that we should definitely do that. I think it's important. And I think it also creates sort of like a team. It creates sort of like a slate, even without being on a slate. And I think that there is sort of this confidence thing that comes from knowing other people are in the same boat as you. Like this was something I got from other candidates running in our area. It's just, it's a good thing. And you also then cross-pollinate supporters that come on and watch and see, oh, I can give this guy a few bucks too, or I could, so I just think it's a really good way to cross-pollinate.
David, we can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast tonight. Last thought before you depart. What do you foresee as being the difference this time around versus last election cycle that will ultimately put you over the top? And of course, where can people find you and support your campaign if they'd like?
Yeah, we have been building relationships within the community. I know this might seem a surprise, even longer than I would say that he has, because he hasn't even started. He just really relies on his union background from years and years and years and years ago.
Oh my God.
Always quotes that, and just like how these long-term incumbents do, something that they are out of touch with. But yet they still quote as something that gives them reason to. What's different this time is we started off in the cycle last time having no idea, having zero supporters. This time we're entering the race with 100,000 voters already supporting us. And this time we just need to bridge that gap of difference. We just need to introduce ourselves to the new neighborhoods, and we just need to be more intentional and in terms of outreach with the neighborhoods that did vote in majority for him at the precincts. And so this time we have it, and we just need to work at it for the next 10 months.
We talk, and Jen, you mention all the time that there are people who like want a seat or they want to run for something, and they don't recognize that there is an entire process that goes into it. There's a lot that great candidates that are running. You are without question one of the very best that we have that is running for high office right now,
and in a very good position to win.
100%.
That is part of it. I mean, nobody likes to, like, I will support and platform anybody, but some people have a better opportunity than others. That's just based on a lot of different things. And to
have, again, right now we think about, who is doing an amazing job in Congress in Southern California, of course, is Katie Porter. If we had the opportunity to have somebody like yourself join her on Capitol Hill, that just creates an even greater swath of non-corporate growing power in a part of the country that really needs it. And in many ways, so goes California, so goes the country. So, we really want to do what we can to help. So what is your website where people can find you?
Is it the 2021? Are you still using that?
No, it's davidkim4ca.com, FORCA, davidkim4ca.com. And that David Kim for CA is the same for all of our social media handles as well.
Okay.
That is awesome. Guys, check it out. Get involved. This is definitely, and again, we not only put our endorsement and
Oh yeah,
support
we'll absolutely
100% behind David, but this is absolutely a race that can be won.
Yeah, guys,
1000%.
throw some love that way. Sign up to Phone Bank.
Phone
And
Bank,
I
text
personally
bank,
hate call
canvas.
time. It makes me like I can't do it.
Yeah, but you're good at canvassing.
I'm great at canvassing.
Yeah.
I hate phones. I hate call time.
Well, everybody has their niche. Like I said, everybody has a role to play.
Yes, for sure. All right, guys, show love to David. Throw him some cash. Sign up to Phone Bank a little bit. Show some love. It's important.
Will you come back when we do a California candidate panel later in the spring?
Of course.
Awesome. Well, Happy New Year. Best of luck.
New Year.
And we will definitely be in touch soon.
Thanks, David.
Happy New Year. Thank you both.
Bye. See you, buddy.
He's lovely. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. He's more progressive than Andrew is too.
Yes.
Like David is more in line with like where we were in terms of, the spectrum.
I definitely think he's
great, guys.
He's got a very warm attitude, which I think is,
and yet
important.
He's also extremely smart and professional. He definitely knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, definitely check it out, guys. David Kim for CA.com. He's got a great team around him. And like I said, when Andrew ran for president in 2020 and dropped out, he only endorsed 2 candidates for Congress, which I thought was very interesting, Jen and David. And so he clearly saw something in him that he really thought was going to be special. And it turns out he was right. And he is definitely one of those candidates where they say that 92 to 94% on an average year is how often the incumbent is going to be reelected, assuming the incumbent is running again. There's always incumbents that drop and retire or whatever. But in the case of this particular race, I think David has an excellent chance of winning and would not surprise us at all if he ultimately does win. Kayla, amazing support tonight. Thank you so much. Robert Milwee, we do not know who he is. I don't know if he's a Democrat, Independent, Republican.
Here? Somebody's running against Debbie here?
Yeah.
Robert Milwee?
Don't know who he is.
Who that is.
So can't say.
If he's a Republican, just
wasting time.
Yeah, don't even
so it is what it is.
Don't research that.
Mm-hmm. So with that said, we have a couple of things that we want to finish before we go. And so Florida inmates organized sit-down protest against prison conditions.
Yeah.
Well, if any of you have seen our recent Festivus podcast or have seen any coverage of what Stephen Donziger went through in the short time that he was in prison, you will understand that the whole goal of prison is to break you and to make you basically give up on living, because they want you to be in the most... the worst possible.
They're not worrying about rehabilitating you. But so, no. Okay. So for people who have not seen the 13th Amendment, I believe it's Netflix. I saw it a long time ago. It's really excellent. Or it's 13 is what it's called. But it's about the 13th Amendment, which when we ended slavery, there is this small little clause in there that basically allows for people convicted of crimes to be slaves. And so there's this sort of little catch in the 13th Amendment, if you will. And the prison conditions are horrendous. They're enforced labor, which is slavery. And Florida, of course, has the most for-profit prisons out of any other state in the country. So they're profiting, 2 huge profit makers, right? You have the prison complex, and then you have whatever business it is that's using them for free labor. So it's like they're being profited off of twice, and it's grotesque. But anyway, so a group of inmates, and I want to say this is in Perry, Florida. There's certain
By the way, if you
Florida.
guys enjoy our content, as you've seen tonight, Nina Turner, David Kim, and Focus on Florida, please sign up at patreon.com/generational change. Remember, all the money raised on our show goes to community service efforts in South Florida and to candidates here and around the country.
Yes. And honestly, we don't always do Florida. Monday show, we do Focus on Florida. Wednesdays, we do News and Amuse. So it's a little bit more, out there. But from my understanding, there's no one else in Florida that's doing anything.
I can see
Florida.
The vampire teeth of Mickey.
Yeah, there's little vampire teeth. But anyway, so a flyer has been circulating among prisoners statewide for the past several days, according to multiple sources within the prison system, urging inmates to participate in a peaceful protest aimed at encouraging legislators to reform Florida's prisons. An email sent to us anonymously had links to multiple crisis in corrections stories. We've talked about this before, the level of white supremacy amongst corrections officers. The correction system is just full of white supremacists all the way around. So there have been a lot of stories about going on there, but they're doing a sit down. The organizers stated the protests were aimed at addressing the following conditions: slavery and forced-free labor, substandard conditions, lack of real parole system, unethical mental health and medical care, unjust sentencing schemes and practices, and super inflated canteen pricing, also part of the industrial complex, the for-profit prison industrial complex. The canteen is ridiculous. So about 14 inmates, 1% of the prison population at Taylor Correctional Institution, has refused to work in food service. So they stopped working yesterday. So, you know, good for them. I cannot fathom what they're going to have to endure to be able, if we think that right to work state union workers can't protest or strike, imagine what happens to inmates who are striking. So people, just be aware that this is going on. And I'm sure it's not great in other states, but Florida is particularly disgusting.
It is.
So just be aware that there are inmates that are striking to just be treated like humans.
I'm not sure where you put up this article about Florida child drownings.
Because this is something that I want to focus on, because it hit an all-time high. Okay.
Okay.
And so this is 98 children drowned in Florida in 2021, which is a record number.
Now, I would assume that you attribute this to parental neglect.
I attribute it to a lot of different things.
Okay.
I'm not going to blame anybody. You could see, and I put that picture there specifically. We actually, growing up, we knew people who had a child who drowned from falling in the pool. And it's something that happens even when people are around. It happens at pool parties. It happens all the time. It is a silent killer. You don't hear it or see it happening. And it is as easy as a little kid reaching for a ball in water. We are surrounded by water here. So people, anybody in or around Florida, your children have to learn how to swim. They have to learn how to swim.
I agree.
And which doesn't mean that there can't be drownings anyway, because there are people that do know how to swim that can drown. There's all sorts of accidents. But people, teach your babies to swim. And if you are anywhere with a pool, you have got to childproof it. First of all, it's the law. But even if it weren't, it's like, this is a major problem. And the water areas are just going to become deeper and deeper as the tide is rising, people. So to me, it's just the fact that it reached an all-time high is upsetting to me. And Florida is just out of control. Granted, we have a lot of water. So that's one of the things. I knew how to walk before I knew how to swim. It is an important thing to learn.
It saved my sister's life from drowning when she was a baby.
It's just, it freaks me out that it's at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Like that's just, yeah. So people, let's not have that.
And finally, another large group of Haitian migrants arrive in the Florida Keys. Well, the Haitian community is going to get its first congressional representative, and that will, knock on wood, be tomorrow officially, Sheila Sherfullis McCormick.
Yeah.
And we are very grateful for what she's done. Obviously, this is a big step in the right direction. Hopefully it will lead to bigger and better things. Hopefully Elijah Manley will win his race tomorrow. That will be obviously huge for us here locally.
Well, I wanted to say something about the Haitian thing, because people, if you're not from here, you don't understand like the complete unequal treatment of Haitians versus, say, Cubans. That's definitely two extremes, but
Sure.
So the latest, for the third time in as many months, a group of Haitian migrants has come ashore in the Florida Keys. The latest group of over 100 individuals arrived late Sunday night near the community of Ocean Reef near Key Largo shortly after 11 p.m. This is the same spot as two other boats from Haiti carrying other large numbers of people. This latest group is the largest that has made their way through the straits since the boats began arriving in November, after more than a two-year hiatus of boats coming. But since the assassination of the country's president and the August 14th earthquake, the people are more and more desperate. Like, these are people that just are, I can't even imagine. That's the truth. I can't even imagine. But I assure you that if somebody is willing to take their baby on a raft and float across shark-infested freezing waters with their baby with nothing, it's because where they're coming from is so unbelievably bad that they'd rather die than be there. And I just can't fathom not being kind to those people, whatever their thing is, right? Like, and so it's very aggravating, it's very upsetting, and we of course are sending them all back. And this is what's really upsetting is I believe it said, hold on, how many planes we've already sent back. We just keep shipping them back there.
All I can tell you is that if you know who is president right now.
Oh, here it is. As of January 6th, the U.S. has sent 320 Haitians back to Haiti on board 125 immigrations and customs enforcement charter flights since mid-September. 13,320 since mid-September of people that were willing to die from their experience there, and we send them back.
Yeah.
So I just,
Jesse,
it's just so upsetting.
Jesse, we would love to have
Oh,
Kashama
yes.
Sawant on the
Big
podcast.
fan.
If you have any way of getting in touch with her, she really
Love
is.
her.
She's as great as it gets.
Yeah, she is somebody who gives me hope that things can happen where they need to at local level.
Seattle should have a congressional representative like her and not Pramila Jayapal. Just saying. I don't mince words when I can see through the BS of some representatives, but Kashama's the best. She really is. Yeah. Great job.
She's the shit.
So with that said,
yeah, John, the Haiti thing is freaking me out.
We really appreciate you guys. Wednesday.
What do we have coming up?
Do we have Wednesday? We don't have our main guest yet for Wednesday.
That doesn't mean it won't be spectacular, but don't expect amazing graphics. That's when Peter's like, I need a graphic at the last minute.
But we do have a great candidate who is coming on.
Yes, we do.
Nabila Islam.
Is it Nabila or Nabila?
Nabila. Well,
I don't know. I'm going to have to listen to it somewhere. Where is she running?
She is running for state senator in the great state of Georgia. She is somebody who was involved. I'm trying to remember whose campaign she was.
Georgia.
She was volunteering on the very awesome Morgan Harper's campaign for the U.S. Senate in Ohio. By the way, Mr. Tim Ryan, if you think you're going to win the U.S. Senate by avoiding debating Morgan Harper and that you can't unite the corporate and non-corporate left in Ohio, good luck. But then again, who knows if you even give a damn. Just saying, hey, you're giving up your congressional seat.
So we will have a great guest, but we have other things coming up. What do we have coming up?
Well, on Martin Luther King Day, friend of the show returning. We love her. You know her. Margaret Kimberly will be
We might have another surprise guest I'm going to see.
On Memorial Day?
On Martin Luther King Day.
Memorial Day.
Yes.
Let's enjoy this moment for the time being. Yes. So we will see that. John?
I like Margaret Kimberly so much. She's so great.
Yes, she is.
Just saying, guys, definitely want to check that out. She's like the best history professor to listen to. I can let her. She does her own audio.
And next Wednesday, we have a couple of potential options that may be coming on the podcast.
This doesn't mean you guys get a vote.
No, you don't.
Okay, he's just telling you.
He's telling you
the options, but you don't really have a vote. All right, what is it? What do we have? Who do we have?
We may have Mr. I think it's how do you say his name?
I don't know because I'm not sure.
O'Cipher, I think is how you say his name. He's from the podcast Stuck in the Middle. A gentleman who sees the benefit of having a libertarian lean and a progressive lean. So talk about the perfect opportunity to have that type of conversation. It looks like we are working on doing a dual podcast with both Steve Grumbine and Jordan Charity.
Is that the thing on the 14th, or is that just me going on?
That's just you.
Okay.
And on Friday,
say that 'cause it's exciting. So on January 14th, guys, at 11:30 in the morning, I am going to be on with Steve Grumbine. Is that on Macro and Cheese?
Macro and Cheese.
On Macro and Cheese. So that'll be fun.
There we go. We have our buddy, Mr. O'Cipher. I did say it right.
Okay, cool. Because anyone knows me knows I love Steve.
Yes. So we've got a lot of great stuff coming up. We hope you enjoyed the show this evening. Remember to like, subscribe, click the bell for reminders because that helps get the views up, the likes up. More people know about what we're doing. They might actually like the idea of service above self.
And if you like what we're doing and you want to be a patron, it's very, very helpful.
It really does make a difference. And as we've reiterated again, and now I got to go up and
I gave out like 3, this past weekend was a lot. Like I gave out 3 homeless packs. I drive around with homeless packs in my car, basically.
Hats off to our and hats off to our awesome supporters. A lot of super chats today.
Yes.
Really appreciate you guys stepping up. It means a lot.
Seriously. And it all goes to help people.
Yeah. This ain't a career. This is definitely something that we're doing.
Which brings me to the fact that I'm job searching right now.
Jen is job searching.
I am job searching. I've updated the resume.
And I just became a real estate agent.
It's very
So,
exciting.
it is.
Very exciting things
It's
happening.
tremendous. It's incredible. It's really great. Really great.
So
Tremendous guy.
if you know anybody who's hiring a,
Anybody?
over middle-aged, out of work lawyer, podcast host, just, let me know.
We'll see you Wednesday, guys.